This is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings and all things Chicago Blackhawks. With your hosts, Jordan Linscott, David Barnhouse, Nick LePage, and Tim Stompanato. This is the Stick Blade Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. It has been, 2 weeks now since the last show?
2 weeks too long.
2 weeks too long. Everybody, welcome to another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. It is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings, all things Chicago Blackhawks, and news around the NHL. Everyone, it's unfortunate. Again, the Detroit Red Wings and the Chicago Blackhawks are out of the Stanley Cup playoff contention. It sucks. No one wants to be here in this situation, but you know what? Both teams are rebuilding. You got to just say that to yourself. Short-term pain will lead to long-term results.
Victories, everybody.
So we hope.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm your host for tonight, Jordan Linscott, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Tim Stompanato, Nick LePage, and David Barnhouse. Everybody, welcome to the show. We have a couple topics that we're going to talk about on tonight's podcast. We're going to start by going over some Red Wings news and then followed by some Blackhawks news. On the Red Wings side of the podcast, we're going to be talking about Jeff Blashill possibly being gone this offseason. There's been a lot of just talk around the Detroit group in terms of just, is this guy going to be here after this season? Again, this is, I believe, his sixth or seventh straight year of missing the playoffs. And I think a lot of fans are starting to get anxious of, hey, how much longer is this guy going to be here? And is he the solution long-term for when Detroit wants to compete? Also, Sam Gagner sounds like he wants to come back with a club next year, just if that's a possibility or not. Michael Rasmussen, a player who has caught a lot of flack the past couple of years, has started to really hit a stride again. And then we're also going to talk about the trade deadline moves that the Wings have made. It's been a little bit of time since the trade deadline has came and went. We've had a chance to see with some of the players that they acquired and the players that they traded away. We could just kind of going to talk about those players, what we've seen so far, what we think, maybe the next 2 years might look like for either one of them. And then we're also going to talk about the fact that, the teams out of the playoffs, what was really that thing that just broke the camel's back when it came to this team this season. There are a lot of things I think you can look at, but I think there were some things that you can really look at and say that was probably the one that broke it. On the Blackhawks side of the podcast, Marian Hossa's jersey is going up to the rafters in the United Center, fellas. Fun fact, number 81, Marian Hossa is the only one who has ever worn that number for the Chicago Blackhawks, if I remember right.
Yep,
Wow.
That sounds right.
That's news to me.
Lucas Reichel is also back with the organization as well, playing again. So again, getting a little bit of a glimpse at that player who they drafted last year, and he had a chance to grow. Jonathan Toews, it's kind of weird to say this, but I think he's going to have to make a decision. Is he staying in Chicago or not? He made some comments this last week about not being sure, where he's at on the team long-term. I think it's a discussion that has to be had, is he going to be around for this rebuild in Chicago? And then also, like we're going to be talking about the Red Wings, we're going to go over their trade deadline moves and the players they acquired, the picks that they've acquired, and just sort of looking at, it's been a minute. What do the trades that they made at the deadline look like so far? And also, again, what was the straw that broke the camel's back for the Blackhawks this season? And then after that, we're going to be talking about a little bit of league news. First, Owen Power, rest in peace, signed his entry-level contract with the Buffalo Sabres.
Damn sharks.
And then Matt Benier signs his entry-level contract with the Seattle Kraken.
Love that.
Love it.
Good for Matt Beniers. I'm sorry for Owen Power. It was good to know you, but
It's always a shame to see such a talented kid, just lose it so early.
He joins the failed attempts to make a team like Rasmus Dahlin and everything else.
Everybody.
But boys, it has been 2 weeks too long. Let's just jump into this thing, man.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
So let's get, I think, the little pieces of news out of the way first for the Wings. Sam Gagner sounds like he wants to be back next year. I'm fine with it if the guy's willing to sign like a 1 year, $1.5 million deal, and he's willing to accept that he's going to be a bottom six guy. If he can do that, then I'm all for him. I like what he brings to the team in terms of, veteran leadership. I like the fact that he's not trying to be a superstar. He's not trying to steal spots from anyone.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that he's just stable. He's not, a fantastic player, but he's definitely an everyday NHLer, and you know exactly what you get.
Yeah. I mean, in a team full of young guys, you need a couple old guys to be that veteran presence. Unlike the wings of the past with Ken Holland, where it was a bunch of old guys with a couple young guys. Gagner, I think, is a bottom six player, and I think he's accepted that. He'll take a short-term deal. Maybe he's trade bait at the next year's deadline if he performs well. I mean, we can always move him up to the first and second line when we play Chicago, just because, he has Chicago's number. But yeah, I'm fine with bringing him back.
I think love this move. Every rebuild and every developing team needs to have that balance. Some seasoned veterans, guys like Gagner that have been around the block, know what it takes to stay active day in and day out and be consistent in an NHL lineup. I think the thing for me is, so long as that spot that he's taking up isn't taking up a spot that someone else could be developing in. Because you're right, I definitely see him as a bottom six guy. I see your top six pretty much locked in. The question is, and it's the same question I have every week on here, is your third line is really crowded already when everyone's healthy. So is he a fourth line guy? And as long as that's a role he's comfortable with, then, and as long as you don't have any guys in your bottom six that you want developing, but I don't see, even if he becomes your 13th forward that you can plug in and out and swap in and out, I think that this is a good move at the right price.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Sorry, I was just looking over at the Red Wings salary cap for next year. I think as like you said, an extra forward, like the 13th forward, he's not going to be in the everyday lineup. I think he's a nice veteran presence to have. I can't say a guy that really knows how to win because he's been in Detroit and Edmonton, but he's a veteran. He's been there. He's still skilled. He's not what he used to be, but he's still a skilled forward, a nice veteran to have there. And especially on a team that had aspirations to win and struggled. So I think he's a guy that you could keep around, kind of like a Mark Stahl role but as a forward. But I mean, I think if I read this correctly, the Red Wings next year have almost 30 million to spend this off season.
They got the money.
We got the monies.
You could do those upgrades you were looking for, and a guy like Gagner is who you want as you padding you the bottom of your roster.
Yeah. So but I think the Red Wings are gonna be spending big. But like you said though, you always need a veteran around. You can't just be having a team full of young studs. You need to have these this Grizzly vets that's been through it all. And if the next year's the year the Red Wings kind of complete this rebuild and go push for a playoff spot, he'd be a nice piece to have just to kind of keep the locker room cool and even keeled.
You made a good point when you talked about it's not like he knows how to win because he's been on all these historically not good teams. However, there's a flip side to that. There's a value that you bring up that it's teaching guys how to keep your head above water and stay present, stay in the moment, stay engaged, stay competitive, even on bad teams. How do you handle yourself not getting too high or too low? That mentality as a team takes off is huge. I look at Sharp and Keith and them that were playing back in 2002 to 2005-06, where they're hey, this is bad. This is a very bad place to be, but we're going to still compete. Knowing how to keep that even keel like Sam Gagner has throughout his career, there's not a single guy on that roster that's not going to benefit from that. I love that point.
Yeah, and even Sam Gagner was a really high pick, never really amounted to it, but if a young guy goes through struggles like a Lucas Raymond, a Moritz Seider, or
a Zadina, where people have historically ripped him like that.
Simon Edmondson, hey, I know I didn't go through it, but this is what I did wrong. I listened to the media too much or whatever it is. And, it's important to have a piece like that around. The locker room presence is, we're not players, we're just fans, but every time you hear a player talk about the locker room presence means more than anything.
Those intangibles.
Yeah.
Intangibles at a reasonable price. That too.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not intangibles at $5 million a year.
I just say it. Get the Danny DeKaiser joke out now.
I was making an applicator joke. So
Oh, yeah.
He's old.
Um,
Speaking of Zadina, we just brought him up. He seems to be thriving with one of our guys who's currently on fire.
yeah, at the
Big
check
black line.
line. Jacob Verana and Pia Suter. Imagine that. You put him with a centerman who actually complements his strengths and another sharpshooter, and he produces. It's it's almost like you saw it coming, right?
I mean, I think you guys were talking about this line before the start of the year.
We were. Before Verana went down with injury, we were like, oh man, can you imagine putting the 3 check guys together? Zadina might thrive with his countrymen.
The triple check.
The more I see it, like I'm so glad we picked up Pia Suter in this off season last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's not super expensive. He has great chemistry with Zadina and Verana. And if he's still here when the Wings are done rebuilding and he's our third line center, that's such a great pick to have.
Yeah.
Like if Pia Suter's our third line center when we're competing again, that's awesome.
That's a deep center. Right,
he's your third line center next year. I mean, the Wings are going to go out and spend, whether it's on a center or they win the lottery with Shane Wright. But no, he's such a great, like, I don't even want to call him complimentary because he could drive a line. Like, yeah, he's not going to be like your massive 50 to 60 point producer. Like he'll get you a 45 and play a great 2-way game. But he's so skilled as well. He can bury the puck. And like you said, it's all clicking with him, Verana and Zadina. So, I mean, you want that for sure. I mean, you got the chemistry there and you got him locked up on like a really reasonable term deal. Was it 4.5, right?
I think it's 4.5.
Yeah. So,
right. How many games has Verana played for us so far?
It's only a handful.
It's like 20 something games with 27 goals. I think they said like the other night, he's like 27 goals in like 21 games or something like that.
Since joining the Wings or this?
Since joining the Wings.
Okay. All right. Okay. I was gonna say, like, geez, I know you guys have been texting about a heater, but I'm like, holy cow!
I don't think I realized that.
He just doesn't stop.
Have I been that drunk? Have I missed time?
But
it's been really fun to watch. But you were talking about the lottery, and you mentioned Shane, right? And a question popped into my head. The Wings are not known, and especially now we're seeing under Yzerman. Like it was a big thing under Holland, where we would draft somebody and we wouldn't see them right away. Do you think Shane Wright would start?
Yeah.
Right away?
I think they'd give the opportunity.
Okay.
I know not to go too far off, but since you asked the question, I know a lot of the worries is like they're looking at a guy like Lafreniere. They think Shane Wright's kind of like similar play style too, and Lafreniere kind of struggled right off the bat. I think it is a little bit different though. Shane Wright is not as big as Alexis Lafreniere, and I think that's why Lafreniere kind of struggled. He was the biggest boy in town for being in the CHL, and then he kind of came. He's like, holy shit, like I am not that big anymore. But Shane Wright he's a 2-way forward. He's got a great shot, probably one of the better shots in the last few draft classes. So, yeah, I mean, I say it every week. I'm like, it's got to be so exciting to see all these top end prospects that could potentially come about for their Wings. And like the fact that you're in another prime position to get a really good one is exciting.
I think
8 spots. You never know.
Well, I think that you've also got a great opportunity for Shane Wright. He's not going to be thrust in the same way that like Lafreniere sort of was, where I think realistically you can comfortably put him as your second or third line center to give it a shot. I think he can be the third line while like a Pia Suter or whoever anchors that second line until he's ready. You can escalate him in at the NHL level. He might not have to go down to the AHL, or I don't even know if he can, if he's in the CHL, he might have to go back to the CHL. That's going to be the tough one. Cause if he's AHL eligible, that's a different story, but they're going to have to make a judgment call after a couple of games of the Kirby Doc issue, right, Nick? It's where, is he going to continue to develop in the CHL, or is it going to stunt it? Which one's going to stunt his growth more? Almost. That would be $1 million question.
The Michael Rasmussen effect too.
Yeah, absolutely.
While we're on him, how about him lately?
We talked about
the Moose is on the loose.
Michael Rasmussen has looked really good recently. I know he came under fire when Ken Holland drafted him. I think it was ninth overall the year he got drafted.
Yeah.
First off, it's not any player's fault where they get drafted at in the draft. They
It's
don't
so
get to
important.
pick where they get drafted at. And secondly, he hasn't been bad. Like a lot of people like Michael Rasmussen's been awful. His rookie season was not great. I will give you that. But again, I don't think he was ready to make the jump, but we were just talking about it. He was too big for the league he was playing in. He was pushing everyone over, not because he was necessarily better. He was bigger. He made that transition to the NHL as a rookie that he probably shouldn't have made, to be honest. Got his feet wet, struggled, went to Grand Rapids, came back this year, or came back the year after, looked okay last year. And this, last 10 or so games, I've actually liked what we've been seeing out of him. He seems like he's playing a lot more intense. He plays with a lot more speed and aggression, and he's playing net front, which is something that benefits a big guy like him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought I was waiting for David to chime in, but he's a big guy, and people. I know I kind of was hypocritical about this. Is the next point I'm about to say, but like you can't jump on a guy like I know. This sounds foolish of me to say.
No, I love it.
I was hard on Kirby Doc, but as for Michael Rasmussen, he's a big guy. He's got to kind of figure out. Like he used to be this absolute stud, but he's got to kind of figure out his role in the NHL, and he's starting to do so. He's looking a lot more comfortable out there. I've been checking in on the wings actually a lot more recently because I've had some downtime. And then just compared to that draft class, the 2017 draft class, it's not like that great. Like it's Hischier and Patrick were the top two picks, so then you got McCarr obviously, but after that, that's where Rasmussen was slotted to go. Like Owen Tippett, nobody knows. He was just traded to Philly in that trade. But then you got like Martin Netchus. Okay, yeah, fine. Nick Suzuki, yeah, fine. Robert, and then the next big name is Robert Thomas. So that's 20th overall. So nowhere near that.
And it took Thomas a couple of years to really develop properly too. Like this is his first year shining.
Yeah, and so this Rasmussen has really never had like skilled players around him.
Yeah.
Either.
Rasmussen, he's a big guy. He actually reminds me of is Franzen.
Yeah, kind of.
Bigger guy. He has a knack recently for just gritty finding the net, which is what Franzen was really good at, was just getting the puck in the net by any means. And there's been a few of his goals in these last couple of games where that's been him. It's like the puck's loose, he's got it. I think if he packs on, it's scary to think about, packs on a little bit more muscle and just works on those skills a little bit more, he could be a serious threat.
Oh, Franzen was what? The mule? Was that
Mule?
Yeah,
so we have the Moose and the Mule.
There you go, the Moose. I was gonna say, what is Rasmussen's nickname? The Moose. Duh, dipshit.
Yeah. Anything else to add about him?
No, I think we can move on to, I think what's probably going to be the biggest piece of news, unless you have something else.
I do, because there's another Wings prospect that's been getting a little attention, especially since he just helped his team win the NCAA title, and that's Carter Mazur.
Ooh.
Yeah, good.
He had a really good season because it was like popping up on the Reddit page. I wanted to bring it up. Third round pick, 70th overall for us. He ended the season with 14 goals, 24 assists, and a plus 23 rating. And I think he had 2 assists in the championship, if I remember. But could we see him scratch the roster next year?
What year was he taken? What year was
I believe it was this year.
Oh, okay.
You might see him take another year then.
Yeah. It's so tough. Especially, I don't know. College athletes are so hard to read with NHL wise. You have your studs that come out of it. I think you do want him to develop for another maybe year or even 2. He's a 3rd round pick. There's no hurry.
I could see him going to the Griffins.
Yeah, that could be. Just with the Hawks have been through it quite a bit with Dylan Sakura, John Hayden, Henrik Borgstrom this year. It's just the NCAA athletes are so hard to read unless they're just true blue. Like there's no better than them.
Hayden is still such a weird one because
Yeah.
I feel like he was going to come in and like power forward, hit the ground running, and he just never really got more than bottom 6 minutes.
I
I
think
don't know.
even like Kyle Bowers going back a few years ago.
Yeah,
that was a big name I think he was out of Colgate. But yeah, I mean, I think NCAA is like a great, a little glitch in the system, I guess you'd call it. Like you have 4 years where you can figure out this guy is like something you want to like really invest in. So I think, but yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's nice to see though, obviously a 3rd round pick flourishing like that in the championship and throughout the NCAA playoffs. So
Definitely.
Another interesting name to keep an eye on.
Jordan, what are your thoughts on Carter?
I think he's got at least another year to spend probably the college level. I think after that, the Wings will probably play him in Grand Rapids for a year if he decides he wants to come play at the pro level. I've always found it weird that some players will decline to go play at the pro level to finish college because, I mean, you could make the money that you make at the pro level and then go finish college later. But
yeah, I mean, but I just watched the movie Moneyball and we saw, what happened with Brad Pitt and Billy Bean.
I mean, Billy Bean made a lot of money, though. Let's be fair.
He did.
That said, I don't hate it. I don't hate the guys that want to finish up their 4 years of college, get the degree out of the way. And you're like, cool, now I can keep moving forward. If I have a career, awesome. If not, at least I've got that degree. And the guys that go 4 years get to pick their team.
That's true.
Like there's something to be said there. If you're Owen Power, with the idea of waiting 4 years it's killing you. Like you're going to lose like actual legitimate years of your career. But I remember the Jimmy Vesey sweepstakes was a massive one a couple of years back. Which also goes to show how college hockey can sort of be a crapshoot.
Also a big name.
But Tim, if I may, doesn't playing in Buffalo also hurt years of your career?
I mean, yes.
It hurts like not even years of your career, it hurts years of your life.
Might actually be better to sacrifice 4 years to get out of there. But I don't know. Like I can definitely understand, especially with these guys' agents sort of weighing the risk reward of like, hey, right now, even if you get out as a junior, you're not really guaranteed a roster spot. If you go this next year, you can have the degree, a little more skill, name your place. Like, I don't know. I think it all depends on the quality of prospect and the odds that they're actually going to end up with that team.
Yeah. While we're on, and also like the new factor in the NIL, like name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a huge game changer.
I know football is like, I know NCAA football is kind of like what this is all set in basketball players, but like college hockey players still get to use that NIL deal as well. So, yeah, it's very interesting how this is going to go about. But in general, like unless it's like your Cal McCarrs or Charlie McAvoys or Owen Powers, Matty Beniers, as we'll get to them later. Like you kind of like to let them kind of garnish a little bit in the NCAA.
I'm honestly surprised that Alex Vlasic. I guess he's ready. I hope he's ready. I'm a huge fan of Alex Vlasic as a prospect for us, but like he's someone I could have seen, except for his sheer size, going another year and honing those skills a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, while we're on, like, we're talking like all these prospects, Jordan. I mean, is this current Red Wings coach going to be the one that's going to kind of be leading?
That's such a good question.
Good transition.
I'm going to say I don't think so.
So who are we talking about here?
I mean, let's feel like I'm on the Jeremy Colleton roller coaster with Blashill, where beginning of the year and last year, Jordan and I were like, oh, get rid of him. He's terrible. And then he had moments like beginning of the year where the Wings looked really good. And we're like, maybe Blashill's figuring it out. And then the roller coaster took a big drop again. And I'm just like, no, gone.
I think,
and again, yeah, go ahead.
I think it's so hard, at least for me, to want to keep Blashill after the season for really just one reason. When this team gets into a slump, they don't get into a slump for just 1 or 2 games. They get into a slump for stretches, and that's what worries me about him. I can Like, do you like seeing, 6 goals scored on your team? No, of course not. But it happens to all, like even the fantastic teams, it happens to them every once in a while. But my problem with Jeff Blashill coaching this team is it seems to be once it happens twice and then 3 times and then 4 times and then 5 times. And it doesn't break until 2 weeks later.
Mm-hmm. Blashill, I'll give him credit. He knows how to develop young talent. He has an eye for young talent. That being said, young talent and understanding them is not going to win you a Stanley Cup. I want to bring in, if we're ready to compete next year, we have 30-something million in cap space. Hypothetically, we win the lottery, we get Shane Wright. That still gives Yzerman money to spend for defensemen that we need, maybe another center here, maybe a player here. I think the rebuild is on the verge of ending. Blashill is not the coach to take us to the playoffs and to take us to the glory again. Is Blashill someone I'd like to keep on the staff as someone to kind of be a scout, be someone that works in the front office? If that's something he'd be willing to do for this team, because he, came up to the Griffins, he came to the Wings, I'd be all for it. I don't know if he would be on for something like that, but you never know.
It's kind of like the demotion by promotion type of
Right.
thing. Like get him out of the current role he's in. Like he obviously has a skill set in recognizing talent.
Yes.
But I don't know how you Red Wings fans could go through like. I mean, I know things aren't right on my side of the our side of the border,
Right.
but like going through a game where you give up 10, you give up 9, you give up 7, you give up 11, 7, I think multiple times in the last month. It's just like how can you be a real organization? Like obviously there's a coaching issue there or some kind of issue. I know the talent is also an issue just based off the roster wise, but like it's embarrassing to get blown out by 9 goals at the NHL level.
And putting Verana on your third line, you don't do that.
I think the big question I always struggle with, and it was the same thing I struggled with Colleton, with King, now with Blashill, of course. When is it the coach's issue and when is it a personnel issue of like, these are the pieces I've got? Like, we're at a point with the Hawks right now, Nick, I think we're ready to admit we're just not a good enough team to win consistently. It doesn't matter who's the coach. We saw that on the tail end of when Quenneville was the coach. We're just not, we're not good enough as a all-around package. The Wings, you're right. It's the sustained slumps and the way that you're losing games. You're not walking out of some of these losses and strings of losses saying, well, I can feel good that we hung in. We didn't roll over and die repeatedly. Like at that point, when you're seeing the kind of slumps that you're falling into and the kind of, like you said, putting people on the third and fourth line that don't belong there, that falls on the coach for me, regardless of, you might be losing anyway, but when you're losing every game, every other, or like multiple games in a row by 1 or 2 goals, and you're seeing tangible like, okay, we held our own, we had a couple of hiccups, and that's when a good team takes advantage. You're not seeing that as much. You're seeing the issue of the coach. I think this is Blashill's last year.
It has to be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel I know I know we went through our issues with Carlson. It was a much shorter. I mean, I know you guys have been going through it much longer with Blashill, but especially talking it's like just like talking with all the money you guys have to spend. Like players do look at the head coach and like that factors into the decision. Like,
yes.
And he has a reputation of, he's a young mentor, good young kids coach, but like veterans don't want to come here, or guys in their prime don't want to come here. And well, this guy's notably coach some of the most horrific teams.
Yeah. I want to track back to something you said, how we've been dealing with it for years with Blashill. I think we were fine as a fan base dealing with it for the beginning stages.
When you weren't a good team, like.
Yes.
But you want to see progress.
yeah, we wanted to see him help develop that young group. We saw him work with them in Grand Rapids and win 2 Calder trophies.
I think it was 2 because there was, what was it? There was the one that had like Shahan and
Yeah.
no, he wasn't around for when Cronwall and number 1, was he?
No, I think he was at Western at the time.
Yeah, he was at Western at that time, but he was still there for the one that like Bertuzzi and Nyquist and Tatar and them won.
But yeah, and I agree, Nick. Like, we're hitting the stage now where it's like, if we want to bring in top tier talent, like, you got to have a coach that can be like, yeah, I want to play for that coach. Like, people want to play for Yzerman, yes, but Yzerman's not coaching them.
Yeah, I think Yzerman has his next John Cooper lined up already, and it's kind of doing a courtesy to
And
Jeff
it is John
Blashill.
Cooper.
I think he's just doing
exactly.
I think he's just doing a courtesy to Jeff Blashill.
Everybody agrees.
Yes.
No, like there comes a point in time when you have to ask yourself, when do we get out of the developing young talent mode and get into the winning and sustainability mode? And like sooner or later, you've got the pieces. You got to shift out of the developing and into the winning. And I think he's great for the developing, but make him to that point, promoting him up and out. Development, player development, personnel, whatever it is, but the actual on ice product has to take that next step now, because we've seen individual guys develop and grow, no doubt. What's next?
And that was the thing. Like, I think it was Unic who said, like Wings fans, we've had this for a while. At the start of this rebuild, Wings fans understood the cupboards were completely depleted for the most part. We'd been spending at the deadline basically every year. We'd been spending high-end draft capital. We hadn't had high picks in the draft at all. And we knew that the prospect pool basically didn't have any elite level players in it. Wings fans knew that was going to be the case for probably 3 to 4 years. But at this point, he's got those elite players coming through the system, like Lucas Raymond, like Moritz Seider. Dylan Larkin came to that system. Tyler Bertuzzi still hanging around. Philip Zadina, I think, is an elite level player, just being mismanaged. Those players are here in Detroit now.
Imagine if a John Cooper-like coach was coaching Zadina.
I think you'd see a way different player.
I mean, I do love that he spent time in the Grand Rapids system where he was able to work on a two-way game and become more than just a sniper. But now have a coach that can actually lead us to victory, lead him to grow even more into an elite player who will start filling nets and taking the puck away. Any guesses as to who the coach could be?
It's going to be somebody off the wall, I feel like.
You think it's someone that's not even in the league right now?
Yeah. I know Blashill kind of came from that college realm, but he was with the Griffins first. I think, I don't think it's gonna be any name that you expect. Maybe if, God forbid, Quinville goes back to Florida somehow, maybe a name like Andrew Burnett is one of the names you keep an eye on, because I don't think they officially named him like full-time head coach, but maybe it's even Quinville if he's allowed back in the league. But it's gonna be someone you don't expect for the Red Wings, but it's gonna make waves once the signing is done.
We talked about this at the top of the show. The Red Wings are out of the playoffs right now. They made some moves at the deadline. They traded away Nick Leddy and Vladislav Nemestikov, and they also traded Troy Stecher to the LA Kings. Stecher, they just got draft picks for. Nick Leddy, they got Oscar Sundqvist. They got
Jake Wallman.
Yeah, Jake Wallman. I personally liked Sundqvist since he's been here. He's not a super
been fun.
Like, he's not like a superstar by any means, but he's a guy who can hang in your roster, an everyday NHLer. And Wallman, I said this when we got this trade made, he's a project defenseman. It's going to be a while.
Yeah, I really love Sonny. He has shown some grit for the Wings too, getting up into other teams' faces defending Larkin and others as well when we had that scrum the other night. Wallman, yeah, I agree with you. I think he's a project. I'm higher on him than Madison Bowie when we traded for Bowie and part of that one trade with the Caps. With the right coaching, going back to what we just talked about with our topic, I think Wallman could develop into something. I don't think a top 4 pair, but I think he could fill out the bottom of our defense.
I love the Sundqvist edition. Like, I don't know. Like, you're right. He's not a superstar. He's not even necessarily a top 6 guy on a full cup contending team. But like, man, as your like third line energy, he can score. He's got grit. He can stick up for people. We know you can't have a team of just superstars. Sundqvist brings you all that grit and sandpaper with also having hands that are good enough to legitimately score you goals and provide you points on the ice. Like, to me, that is the ideal pickup and addition to a team that is on the precipice of starting to be competitive.
Yeah. Will he be as heroic as Fabry? Probably not, but I think he's going to fill the role just fine.
I think that Fabry's offensive upside is higher, but I think that the physical presence and the energy that he brings to the ice, I think that he will have a higher upside than Fabry on that side. Which again, you need both. If you can have both of them filling out those roles, holy cow, that's phenomenal.
No, I gotta ask David. I mean, you've watched the same Wings team that I did this season. Got to watch all the awful meltdowns.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what was like the one thing this season that you looked at and said, that's why the Wings were losing so many games?
I think defensive mismanagement, just really pairings and stuff like that. You can't take a guy like Moritz Seider and have him playing well with a Nick Leddy or whoever, and then just being like, shuffle it up and put him with Danny DeKeyser, who's on his last legs. It hurts your defensive pairings. It hurts your goalie, really, because then you get, bad management, and then guys like Ned and Grice facing 50-something shots a game. Like, I think it's just coaching mismanagement, like, not just defensive. We said it earlier. I mentioned it briefly. Verana should not be playing third line. I don't like the Blashill blender. Like, when you find something that works, why are you changing it? You don't see John Cooper going in and being like, oh, let's just, change things up a bit. It's working great. We're winning games. Let's just put, Stamkos on the fourth line, and let's put, this guy, like,
Yeah, no.
Let's just move Khrushchev to the third line.
Right? Like, you wouldn't do that. That's our Verana. Like, Kucherov is our Verana. Like, or vice versa. Verana's our Kucherov.
I hear you.
Like, you don't freaking do that. So, yeah, coaching and management and line management. I think that's where we went wrong. I think when things were working, we were winning and looked good. And when you were changing things around, that's when it was not working.
I think for me, like, I do think it was like there were some terrible defensive plays this year. I think, and this is probably the most apparent one for me, it was the defensive pairs. Moritz Seider's a great defenseman. He's already a top pair guy in the NHL, and he's going to be trying to make that transition to be a true elite number one defenseman next year.
Yep.
But you can't put a guy like that with a guy like Danny DeKeyser, who, like you said, is on his last leg and is out the door next year. And then in the meantime, you put guys like Philip Hronik and Nick Leddy together, guys who are both offensive defensemen who they're okay defensively, but neither one is a defensive stalwart. And then your bottom pair is just average. That's not a recipe for success on, I don't think, any NHL team, unless that team is the Toronto Maple Leafs, in which case the forward pool just never lets it get to the neutral or defensive zone. Like, I thought the defensive pairings were so mismatched this year. And like you said, when they had things that were working, Blashill changed them for no reason. Like the Letty Sider pairing, I actually thought looked really good, but the problem was that's like two of Detroit's top four. And realistically, Hronek needs to be playing with a defensive partner, which Danny DeKeyser wasn't good enough defensively this year to carry him. So I don't know. That's kind of where I was at. It just, the defense wasn't good enough. And when they had pairs that worked, they didn't stay together.
And I feel bad because DeKeyser's coming back from like a really big surgery,
Yeah.
but he just doesn't got the stuff anymore. No offense to him. Love the guy. But you shouldn't be putting him in a top pairing with Sider.
And like, that's the thing. They either put him in a top pair with Moritz Seider because they want Moritz Seider to grow, or you throw Philip Hronek on the top pair with either Nick Leddy or DeKeyser, which DeKeyser's not a top pair defenseman, and he can't play top pair minutes and make up for Hronek's defensive lapses. Like, it's a hard situation to be in for Blashill. I get it, but man.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my tough question is like, Moritz Seider is your number one defenseman. If not DeKeyser, who do you pair with him right now? I mean, I know this is going to probably be ridiculous as a suggestion, but like Mark Stahl?
I was actually just going to say that. Like,
he could, but he could anchor the blue line.
He's not terrible. He's not great.
Yeah.
But he's a veteran who knows the game, has played for a bunch of teams.
He's smart. He can make up for some of it. Maybe he's lost a step, but he knows how to be in position.
Yeah.
And he knows what he can do still.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, all in all, you guys have the, maybe not runaway right now, but you probably have the leader in Calder voting as your number one.
I'm gonna
anchor.
be so upset if he doesn't win. Inevitably, he doesn't win.
It's gonna go to Zegras because they're gonna like, look at this cool goal.
Michigan goal.
Like,
I don't know.
That's not Calder.
And is it good for the game?
Oh, okay. Chill out there, Torts. No, but yeah, I mean, yeah, you have your defensive lapses, but I mean, there's a bright spot right there just with the Calder run, not the runaway, but probably the leader right now.
And you've got a bright spot, and Edvinson's going to come up next year. And hopefully in the offseason, you clean some space out. You bring in somebody that can actually be a top four defenseman, hopefully stabilize things a little bit on your blue line, give you options as opposed to
look at the upcoming free agents and see what defensemen there are.
Because like
I already looked, I was not impressed.
That's unfortunate.
I'm sorry, David. I already looked before the show.
Maybe you go for a Chetron deal. I mean, it's no secret that he's gonna be out of Arizona.
Yeah,
and he's a left pairing defenseman. I think,
or
is he right?
They drafted from our pick.
Yeah, he's the one that we traded. What was it? We traded Pavel Datsuk's contract and our first for Arizona's first rounder.
They got Chetron and we got
Chetron and we got Hronek and Cholowski out of the deal.
Yeah.
I mean, not bad. Like,
so basically, it finally reverses that Ken Holland transaction. We just have to pay like $8 million to do it.
I mean, yeah, it's gonna be hey, I'm just trying to figure out, because you want to have enough legitimate top four guys that if one person goes down, you're not having to play a DeKeyser in your top pairing.
Yeah, I was really hoping that somehow, some way, Larkin would be able to convince Werenski to come, but he signed a contract.
Yeah, if Detroit wants a good defenseman this year in the free agency market, they have to pay like real top dollar. There are no I don't think at least there are any really solid top 4, $5 to $6 million guys. I think it's either like $3 to $4 million guys or they're $8 million guys.
PK Subban should be available.
Subban.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I hate that. He's not so far removed from being like an all-star, right? Maybe a couple years.
Auga.
That's fair. All right, tough crowd.
No, but I think that's everything I have on like our side for the Wings. David, do you have anything else before we move over to the Blackhawks side?
I hate Boston.
I hate them too, but we did beat them, which was
We did.
fun. I will always root for a win against Boston, no matter
Oh,
how
for
ugly it
sure.
looked.
Yeah, that's the only game I really cared about in this last 2 weeks, that we beat Boston, and it made them so sad that they had to try and sucker punch one of our kids.
That's so gross. It's exactly why people don't like Boston.
Sucker punched somebody and then tried to play victim when someone wanted retaliation.
That's so frustrating.
Totally, like, screw off.
What happened?
Screw
no-
off. Find what happens.
Marchand's such a piece of work. He's such a great heel. I hate
If
him.
there's someone I hate more than Tom Wilson, it's Marchand.
Yeah, for sure. Tom Wilson is a goon. Marchand is smart enough to like, he doesn't, man, he's so good. And then he's that. Drives me up a wall.
But the Blackhawks, you guys had a really interesting past 2 weeks.
Yes.
I kind of want to start with your guys' younger players, and then we'll talk about some of like the veteran stuff that happened this week or these past 2 weeks with you guys.
No doubt.
Lucas Reichel is back with the Blackhawks. He's been doing like these weird like 2 and 3 game stints with you guys this year. It seems like where they'll play him 2 games, they'll send him back to Rockford for a stretch, they'll call him back up for 2 games,
I love
send
it.
him back to Rockford. Do you guys think this is what they're going to just do for the rest of the year? Or at this point, do you think they might just say, you know, we'll just sacrifice a year of this ELC and just eat it?
I think the only reason he would go back down at this point is to play in the Calder playoffs. I see him staying up with us for the rest of the year realistically, unless he goes down for the playoffs, because that's what the rest of this year's about. Davidson's said, if we burn it, we burn it. That's not a concern. And it could actually benefit us realistically.
No, yeah, I mean that's exactly what I was gonna say. I mean, now that like he hasn't scored his first NHL goal yet. I'm not even sure. Does he even have a point yet?
I think he's pointless. Now that said, he's had 2 game stints on like.
No, yeah, I'm not.
No. I know. That's the thinking of like, if he actually has sustained playing every game, he could get into a groove like that. But yeah, as of now, he's pointless.
Yeah, if anything, like Bernie, like you said, Tim, Bernie a year could benefit us. Like you could kind of use this like 10, 11, 12 games that he's going to have, or maybe it's going to be probably near 20 if he plays the rest of the year. But yeah, you struggled up here. I mean, yeah, you had good numbers in Rockford. He was a point a game player down in Rockford.
Yeah,
he was
he's having a great.
I think he was actually player of the month for the Rockford Ice Hogs of March.
Yep.
So, and he's still eligible because of how late the call up was. He's still eligible for the Calder Cup playoffs. So obviously they're going to want to get him in some games. But yeah, you want to get he's going to be on the roster for sure next year. So you want to get him this experience as much as possible. I don't see Bernie a year. I'm not really concerned about like we talked about the benefits that, hey, Bernie a year, he doesn't pop off 3 straight years and wants a large amount of money. So yeah, I mean, it's good to see Reichel up. I'd rather keep him up for the year because 1, it's something to watch. It gives you a reason to watch the Hawks, and 2, just because he needs to start developing this chemistry and gets put into these roles of the top 6. And, kind of face adversity. So, I mean, he hasn't done anything where it's like, what the hell is he doing out there? He's just he's been a guy.
Yeah. He hasn't done anything wrong that I've really stood out and, noticed. I like how he's been utilized too. Like since he's been up, he's been on the, as a center, the last 2 call-ups he's had. This time so far, he's been exclusively on the wing. And he even said, I've played wing before. I think I'm more of a natural center now, but if I'm in the NHL, I'll play anything but defense. And that's funny. I love seeing a kid with a sense of humor, frankly. But seeing him get to play with, I think he played with Toews and Kane for a game. That's really exciting. He played with Toews and he played with Toews and Doc for a game. Then he played with Doc on the third line. Like, he's getting exposed to a lot of different situations and matchups, getting exposed to different like pressure and stress levels. Reichel is the first prospect we've had in a long time that I feel like we're actually managing his development relatively well.
Yeah, I think ultimately when it comes down to him, I think he is a winger. I don't see why, like, transitioning him to a center at the beginning of the season. I understood why, because it's like, well, we're lacking center depth now. But like, as we've talked about, Kyle Davidson says it's gonna be a long-term thing. So go find your centers in other drafts. Like,
Well, and he also,
if Reichel's more comfortable on the wing, if he develops as a center, great. If he doesn't, oh well.
because he also played center primarily last year in the DEL, right? I think he at least played as center for a majority of the year. We drafted him as a left winger, and then all of a sudden his next year he was playing center most of the time, and I was like, oh, this is weird. Cool. If anything, it just shows versatility. Like, Q Suter, we signed as a wing, and all of a sudden he was a center for them, and he's a center for the Red Wings now. Give me a guy that actually embraces versatility, as opposed to, there's so many players that are like, I am a center. That is what I feel good about. I'll take a Lucas Reichel who's like, yo, as long as I'm playing forward, listen, I'll mentally adjust. I'll fit in. It's exciting to see. Also, side note, just, I know we don't have it on the docket to talk about, but Arvid Soderblom got his 18th win of the season last night, and he became the winningest Ice Hogs rookie goalie ever, passing Colin Delia in the 17-18 season and Alec Richards in the 10-11 season. So that's actually pretty exciting. I don't know. That seems like kind of a big deal. I mean, like, not groundbreaking, but like, it's cool to see a goalie that we have, like a rookie goalie, getting that sustained progress.
No, absolutely.
Good for him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's good. I did not know that stat, but that's great to hear.
It literally just came up a couple of minutes ago on the Rockford Ice Hogs Twitter feed, and I said, "Hold on, let me click on that. Let me save that." All right.
That's great.
Oh, sick. So he's 22. He's got an 18-11-2 record this year. He's got a 2.76 goals against average and a he's got a 0.917%, 2 shutouts in 31 appearances. Like, he's a big reason of why the Ice Hogs are doing this playoff push, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, him and Reichel alone.
Oh God, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just to close out on Reichel, I think obviously, yeah. So I think he ultimately, like, he stays up, closes out the year with the Blackhawks. He's already on the paper. He's already went through all that paper transaction stuff with the Ice Hogs and the Blackhawks to make sure he's eligible for the Calder Cup playoffs. So now it's just kind of see where he fits, see what he molds into with the last holy shit, we still have 10 games left in the year.
It's almost a burden at this point.
Last 10 games with the Hawks. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there's nothing really to kind of nitpick about his game.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of rookies that are getting their shot with the club and are burning a year of their contract, what have you thought so far of like Alex Vlasic? I honestly haven't noticed a lot of. I've noticed Jake McCabe negatively more than I've noticed Alex Vlasic, to be entirely honest. I think that he's been making some pretty good decisions with the puck. And he's a massive frame of like 6'6" or something like that. But he's looked relatively comfortable in the small ice time that he's had.
Yeah. Vlasic kind of, it's weird. You see guys like, which I obviously absolutely hate. Eric Gustafson's still getting more minutes than him. And
that drives me crazy.
I know that's kind of like a lot of people criticizing King of his mismanagement, but oh well. In the games Vlasic has had, I thought he's looked great. He's looked okay. Like, there's nothing to really be like, oh well, he's got some things to work on. But he's coming from the NCAA straight to the NHL. Like, it's a tough transition, and I think in the 9 minutes a night he's playing, it's been very competent hockey for what is he, 19, 20 years old now?
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's exactly where I'm at. Like, he doesn't look lost.
Yeah.
And that's frankly all I'm really looking for right now with him is I didn't expect him to come in and be a game changer. But the fact that he's out there playing the puck, making decisions, like he doesn't look terrified and lost. I think that in itself is a win. I'd like to see him in Rockford, frankly, for a playoff push. Because I think he'd be a huge asset down there. But I don't know if he's getting a couple of minutes a game, learning a couple of different things, saying, hey, this is what I got to work on. This is what I've got to learn. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a different type of defenseman too that we're used to seeing with the Hawks lately. Kind of try to develop. We've typically gone especially the last few drafts, or not besides this past one, like small, skilled, offensive-minded defenseman. And Vlasic's kind of one of these more true blue defensive-minded, like your Brent Seabrooks.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we've been looking for. So, a very nice part. Like I know he wasn't in like the Blackhawks big. Corey Promen's big, like top 50.
He
prospects.
was a project. He's been a project for a couple of years.
Yeah.
We're kind of talking about young guys right now. I kind of want to transition over to a guy who's not a young guy anymore in the NHL. Jonathan Toews. Now it's been 2 weeks since we've had the show, so this isn't, just coming out news, but it did come out within the past 2 weeks. Jonathan Toews, not really sure about where he's at on this rebuild. How do you guys feel about him long-term in Chicago? Do you guys think he sticks around? Do you guys think he sort of just hangs him up after this year?
Yeah, I'm frustrated. He's our captain, and he's always been captain series. He's always been one of those guys that kind of really wouldn't say much unless it's in the game. And I know we always talk about like these Canadian hockey players that really kind of mute themselves when it comes to facing the media. So it's kind of unfair for us to jump on him when he makes a comment that we don't like, when he makes it's like, oh, this is concerning. But with that all being said, you're the captain of the team still. Like you are the current captain of the Chicago Blackhawks. You have young guys that in the organization that idolize you, that grew up wanting to be you, wanting to be in your position, wanting to win 3 Stanley Cups with a franchise, being a franchise player. It's not enticing. It's not promising to hear. Especially the comments of like, well, if Brandon Hagel gets traded, that clearly means nobody's safe. Yeah, nobody should be.
Yeah,
nobody should be safe. Like this team has been failing since 2017, hell, since 2015, and you can't just keep throwing the same shit out there and expect like what's the definition of crazy? It's like you
doing the same thing expecting different.
Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Like that's what Stan Bowman tried to do. This is a new era, and if you don't like it, Toews, I know you were going through like all these health issues last year, and probably started the year before. Play better. Like you're on a $10.5 million contract. I know you're not the player that you once were. But if you don't like it, you got to start playing better too. Like this is not just everybody else's fault. You're a part of this.
And that's so like, here's where I am actually not super bothered by a lot of the comments that he made. Like I get, and again, they interview him after loss, and like everything's raw. Brandon Hagel was a character guy. Like he comes out and makes these comments, and Jonathan Toews has always been captain serious, but he's also always kind of been hot-headed. See 2013 run against the Red Wings. That said, I think for me, I get it. He's raw, and it's, I want to win, and I want people like Brandon Hagel helped the team be better. The problem is he lives in the moment. He's not looking, and that's Davidson has said his job is to play right now. My job's to look at the future. Sometimes those things don't align. Well, we've talked about it. I guess my biggest issue with what Toews has said publicly is seeming to be unclear of what a rebuild is, what we're doing in a rebuild. I guess that this is the path we're going. Like, when does it become, hockey players are famous for that optimism of get into the playoffs, anything can happen. I take it one game at a time. But when does it become an unhealthy illusion? Like, you have to be, I think Kane has been able to sit back and be like, oh, we're not, and like, I want to win. I want to play every night. We are not there right now. Like, and he's embraced a lot more of the rebuild and some of that mentor stuff. And like, people have come out and said, hey, Toews is the first person to make sure that like rookies feel involved and they're out to dinner. Like, he is still doing all that. But it's this question, it's this realization of, I think he's got to be honest at this, not to play psychologist or anything like that, but like, judging based on what he has said, I think there has to be a coming to terms of like where the team is at. And that also reconciles with where his future is at. And as long as like the team is winning and close and trying to compete, it's almost like he too can continue to try and compete, is what I'm sort of reading at every time that I listen to him.
To me, what I feel about him in this whole situation with him is he just had a health scare.
Yeah.
He lost an entire season. He doesn't know how much time he really, honestly, probably has left
In the game. Yeah.
in the game, not in life.
I wanted to clarify, like,
so he's looking at this and being like, what am I doing? Like, I probably have maybe a couple seasons realistically left, because it might be a Zetterberg thing where Zetterberg might have been able to play a few more years, but Zetterberg said, my personal health is more important to me than this game. And Toews is still a younger guy.
He's what, 31 right now?
I think he's 32 or 33.
33.
And he's probably looking at, this last season that he couldn't play with this condition that really affected him.
It's a terrifying condition. Like, just to how much he's like, I don't know.
And being like, I don't have a lot of time left in the game.
Please clarify that, because it sounds so ominous.
I'm the captain of this team that I've played for my entire career. We've won numerous Stanley Cups. I'd love to get one more push at it. And he sees, Hagel being traded away. He sees all this stuff happening. And he's like, is my future here? Like, I don't think he wants to be in a rebuild.
Yeah.
And he's not going to come out and say it, because, that's just how he is. But at the same time, he's between a rock and a hard place.
No, yeah. I mean, you're absolutely, yeah, you're right. It's just because like you said, the Toews and Kane's mindset was to be like, let's win a couple games and we'll go on a run. Like, that's always been their mindset since they were Hawks. Like, we'll win a couple games, we could go on a run. Like, this could happen at any time. We're good enough players here. As they're aging, like you said, it is a concern. It really is. Like, I think Davidson's got a lot of work cut out for him. Like, this is just like this trade deadline was just kind of the beginning of it all.
Oh God, yeah.
Because once I think the date is July 16th comes around, the biggest conversation around town is what's the plan with Kane and Toews.
And it's gonna be the conversation until it's answered.
Yeah, because they're eligible for contract extensions once that date hits. I think the biggest thing he's gonna have to do, and the only way Toews maybe even stays, is be like, we're a couple of years out. Here's like a nice 3-4 year deal on a discount price, because like you haven't done anything for me to give you any more. But like I truly believe Kane and Toews, they only want, like, they want to win, but they really want to win as Blackhawks.
I agree. I 100% agree with you.
But like, I don't know if they understand it's a business though. Like, if they have to go win elsewhere, they will. But it's going to be a tough conversation to have with the captain of the team, because it could get ugly. He could kind of look at it and realize and kind of come to terms with it. But like, he was always like, I'll believe it when I see it, and then reality hits you in the face. It's like, oh shit, like, it happened. Now what?
And It's so hard because we just watched another one of the like great pillars of our era of hockey announce his retirement in Ryan Getzlaf. Like, to me, he's one of those, and maybe it's because we were a West Coast team that was always battling them in those years, but like, I put Getzlaf up there with the Sedins, with a couple of those other guys where it's like Anze Kopitar, like they were the ones every year that we were facing. And Ryan Getzlaf, who had success very early in his career with a cup, and then a lot of good playoff runs, slowly started to watch everyone around him get traded or bought out or moved. Kessler went on LTIR forever. Corey Perry left, and Getzlaf, as the captain, had to make this decision. Like the Anaheim Ducks were facing a rebuild, and he came to the decision of, I want to be here. I will be a mentor. I want to win, but I want to win here. And if me phasing into this role helps this team, let's do it. And you listen to guys like Zegras, who are like, I would not be who I am without Ryan Getzlaf. Like, I love Toews so much. He's one of my all-time favorite players, of course. And I guess I want him to do what's right for him. There's a part of me as like the fan that wants him to embrace that same thing of like, you know what? I'll be that mentor. I'll phase into that. I'll take these kids under my wing. Let's go. Let's do this next era. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I want him to be around when we win. We win again.
I just want him to be around.
Yeah. Hopefully it's
going to be emotional.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I think the difference with him and Getzlaf is much older and hasn't had a health scare. Like,
you're 100% correct. The health scare changes everything. And I do think that reconciling with the health and quality of this team is equally reconciling like with where he's at as an individual. And that's a weird place to be in.
And to tie in to one last thing for the Toews talk.
Yeah.
We did get to witness his 1,000th game as in the NHL. I know it's kind of glazing over like his comments, but 1,000 games in one jersey. Like we were talking about, I hope we get to see. It won't be 1,000 more, but it'll be. I hope we get to see a couple hundred more, because he truly is the heart and soul of this team. And when Toews is happy, He's kind of on a heater when it happens. So very interesting comments from the captain. So we'll see where this goes.
But you're right. How cool is it that we got to see 1,000 games with one team? That is not common.
Speaking of players who had like fairly successful careers, Marian Hossa has his jersey retired. Jersey retired at the United Center coming up.
Former Detroit Red Wing, Marian Hossa.
Yeah. Former Atlanta Thrasher, Marian Hossa. We can play that game. Former Ottawa Senator, former Pittsburgh Penguin, Marian Hossa. Former Arizona Coyote, Marian Hossa.
What kind of name for a hockey team is the freaking Thrashers?
He was with the Arizona Coyotes longer than he was with the Red Wings.
But did he go to the Stanley Cup Finals with the Arizona
You're right.
Coyotes?
You're 100% correct on that one.
No, but Marian Hossa, it's been announced his jersey is going to be retired at the United Center. It's such an interesting player because he played with the Penguins. He played with the Red Wings, went to the Stanley Cup Finals with both of them, and the years were completely swapped. So
hilarious.
He goes to the Cup Final with the Penguins. The Red Wings win it. He goes to the Cup Final with the Red Wings. The Penguins win it. He goes over to Chicago, plays for the Blackhawks, and that's when he gets his cups.
And it's interesting that he went to the Blackhawks because he was on a 1-year deal with Pittsburgh, 1-year deal with Detroit. And listening to him tell the story, he faced the Hawks in the conference finals before going over. And he's like, I played against these guys and they were hungry. And he signed a 12-year deal. Like going from 1 year, 12-year, he was locked in now.
Wasn't he a trade deadline for the Penguins? Didn't they get him at the deadline, I thought? Or am I imagining things?
I honestly can't remember. That was like 11
I thought
years
he
ago.
signed a 1-year deal with them.
But I remember when he signed with us, he turned down like a massive deal from like the Oilers. And he was like, I want to win now, and I think the Wings can do it. And
Yeah,
he couldn't, unfortunately.
he came close, real close.
Batman had to give Crosby a cup, you know.
Yeah, I think he was the last one to get one of those 12-year deals because that deal was under review by Gary Bettman. He's like,
Yep.
is there some kind of, are you guys going to try to pull a fast one here? And I mean, ultimately, the kind of Hawks kind of did.
But it wasn't an
it-
intentional one.
no,
They got
I
the
was-
majority of that deal.
Yeah.
Under the CBA at the time, it was a legally discussed contract that then became some sort of taboo afterwards.
Yeah, I think.
All right,
everybody
easy
kinda
there, Tampa.
Yeah.
I think everybody kind of forgot about that one. That was how much controversy that deal really got. Because of his age at the
Kovalchuk
time.
deal, I think, was worse.
Oh yeah, but
I
like
mean,
because of his age at the time, and like Hossa was in his 30s, and he signed a 12-year deal. It's like, whoa, this is unheard of.
It was one of the last ones before the lockout where they changed the rules.
To 8, yeah, or
Yeah.
7 as a UFA.
7 for a UFA, 7 for a UFA, 8 if you were with the team already, which I dig.
With that being said,
Yeah.
81 is going in the rafters. The only Blackhawk to ever wear 81, the first
That ever
and-
will.
the first
Yep.
and only. A pretty significant kind of piece of, I guess, recent history because it sparked a debate. I mean, I want to go like first. I'll go into detail. Like Hossa had a phenomenal career. Like we don't have 3 Stanley Cups without him. As you could see, we haven't been the same team since he's left.
Kane even said that.
He's been one of the biggest pieces in Hawks history. One of the best free agent signings in NHL history. But I mean, it's just like he's done numerous things, always very underrated for Selke nominations and everything like that. I think because he wasn't a center.
Yeah.
I think rightfully 81 belongs in the rafters because Tim and I always preach like you won 3 cups here, you got to be up there.
He's
But
arguably the
that has now
greatest free
sparked a
agent.
debate.
Yeah.
My favorite Hawk, you know. He played for the Wings. I got to
Yeah,
cheer for him.
so that sparked a debate.
Who else?
Who else? Who like now? What's the guideline here? Like, what's the
Nick, correct me if I'm
stand
wrong.
line
I
in the
think we
sand?
were pretty much in agreement. I think most Hawks fans were in agreement that like Toews, Kane, Keith, 1988 too. Those are going up in the rafters. You know what? The Hawks have always been stingy with retiring numbers. It's gonna be those 3. Everyone else was a huge part, but those 3 drove it. When you add Hossa, and Nick, we talked about this before the show. When you add Hossa, you have to add Patrick Sharp. And if you add Patrick Sharp, how
Number
do you
4?
not also add Seabrook? And if you add Seabrook, how do you not also add Hjalmarsson? Those are everyone that was involved in all 3 cups, and that core made it happen.
Yeah, you can't leave anyone out now. Like
Yeah.
Sharpie, Mark Lassert and Scott Powers had a nice article about it, like showing the numbers by the years and like very similar like it's been like stat wise, it's been like almost identical.
Yeah, it's actually closer than I thought it was gonna
it's
be.
scary. Like it's like holy cow, it was that close. And then like you said, I mean, Hjalmarsson, he was always called the most underrated defenseman in the NHL, even though he really wasn't. He was like so damn good, and people just didn't appreciate it because he's a defensive defenseman.
Yeah, we knew.
Yeah. The league didn't know, but now that he's retired, it's like this is the best defensive defenseman maybe of all time.
I would be okay. I would be comfortable saying that. I know there's people that push back, but I definitely nobody embraced that role the way he did.
Yeah.
And Seabrook wasn't just the voice and like a character. Like Seabrook was such a clutch playoff performer. He was an iconic defenseman. That combination of like he had a booming shot, but he could also absolutely ruin you. He was physical. He was, he knew how to pass. He knew how to shoot. he was an all-around two-way defenseman, and both him and Hjalmarsson allowed Keith to play the freewheeling game that he was able to play. Get out of here. You add, and again, none of us are questioning, like, I think they all deserve to be up there. But now seeing Hossa, you've got to. You've got, and we've gone back. There's so many arguments. You could also include Corey Crawford in that. But I think that they have to cap it at the 7 that got the 3. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, there's a lot of people that could be in.
Yeah, like I think Nick said it earlier, or one of you said earlier. There's no 3 cups without Hossa. Hossa.
No way on earth.
Hossa like played for a bunch of teams, but he'll be remembered as a Blackhawk. So that's my thing for it. He goes up in the rafters, no doubt about it.
That I 100% agree with. Nobody remembers that unless you like dig and like actually want to know. No one remembers he was an Ottawa Senator.
No. Like the only thing I remember about him with the Penguins is he almost scored in the final seconds of Game 6 to tie it.
Yeah.
As a Red Wing, he was phenomenal. Like any line he played on, whoever he played with, they lit it up.
He was phenomenal.
But I will always remember him, if not as a Red Wing, you know, the one great year he played for us, minus the cup, is a Blackhawk. Like, yeah, he deserves it.
I think when it comes to like retirement, though, I think it's kind of got to just stay to the Kane, Toews, and Keith group. Like, in
too late.
I mean, like outside of Hossa, though, because
you can't.
Like if you try to go outside that group, then you've got like 7 numbers you're retiring at that point. And then it sort of becomes this question of how special is it really to be in the rafters then? And that's what's supposed to be so special about being up in the rafters.
And to me, that's why, as much as I want to see Crawford up there, you have to cut it at the group that got 3 cups. If they were there for all 3 cups at this point, because each of them, it's almost like Infinity Stones. Like each one of them played such a crucial part that if you take one away, I don't think we get 3 cups, especially our defense in the 13 and 15 cups. There's no way, no matter how good Hossa is, and no matter how good Sharp is, no matter, obviously Kane and Toews and Keith, they're in. Without Seabrook and Hjalmarsson, yeah, they were game changing during those years. And if you put Hossa in and don't put the others in, that's such a tough, I don't know. Like, it seems like people forget Patrick Sharp a lot, and it's only because of the rest of the people that he played with on the Hawks.
Tim, congratulations. Now you know how Wings fans feel about Brendan Shanahan, Sergei Fedorov, and Chris Osgood.
No, yeah. And that makes complete sense. And Osgood's probably had the worst of it. Just hearing all the things about like, oh yeah, he was along for the ride. He was just, he had to keep a couple pucks out and he was fine. Like, I don't buy that, but it's tough because you let one guy in outside of that 3. You're telling everyone else, you just weren't there. I don't know. That's tough to me.
Yeah, it's upsetting. Like we said, it's a very difficult process to get in the Raptors. And Jordan just named like a bunch of guys for the Wings, and I'm like, why the hell are they not in there?
Yeah, exactly. Wait a minute, they should be up there.
Like Fedorov deserves to be up there.
I figured he was.
It's been a debate for years now. Osgood, in my opinion, deserves to be up there. Shanahan deserves to be up there. Like, it's sad because like we have a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people in the rafters. Zetterberg and Datsuk, I think, should be up there.
I forget that they're not up, but they haven't technically. Well, Datsuk technically hasn't retired yet.
Yeah, he hasn't fully retired. He's still playing over in Russia, but Zetterberg is fully retired.
That says. Like the numbers we have, number 1, Terry Sawchuk, number 4, Red Kelly. And Kelly was recent. It was
he was a couple of years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago.
2019. Number 5, Nick Lidstrom, number 7, Ted Lindsay, Gordie Howe, Alex Del Vecchio, Sid Abel, and Yzerman.
I mean, listen, yeah,
That's all elite company.
rarefied air.
It is.
And the Hawks have less. I think the Hawks have like 6 or 7. But I don't know. I think on our end, the Hawks having like the Red Wings, you've had such a rich history of like certain guys. Like we had phases, and don't get me wrong. Like I love Tony Amonte. He's not gonna be retired. Like, listen, I love Amonte. He's one of my favorite Hawks. He's not getting retired. But you look at the dynasty. You look at the 09 through 15. And I think you can make an exception for one of the arguably, no, not even one of the greatest era in Blackhawks history. As much as I love Makita and like that era, they had 1 cup. To see the sustained team success and all around team accolades, you can make an exception for that little core.
So you guys have 7 people.
Okay.
2 number
But
3s.
6 numbers.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
That's
Magnuson and Pilot.
Pierre Palat.
Hall, Palat. Sorry. Hall,
it's all-
Magnuson, Palat, Bobby Hull, Savard, Makita, Esposito.
Yeah.
And then Hossa's next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously you could automatically factor in
Kansas
88,
State.
88, 19 too. I think now Hossa is ultimately going to be the difference maker. Like I think you got to include Sharp now, or Sharp, Seabrook, Jalmerson. I mean, but now that factors in. You retire Seabrook's number. That's the number 7. You might as well throw
You got to
Chelios
do a
out there.
split with Chelios. I mean, and Chelios arguably
Ronick is in discussion. Larmer deserves it.
Lamar.
I see
What do you
Chelios
think
more of a
Savard?
wing. I see Chelios more of a wing than a.
I mean, so does a lot of the fan base, but I mean, where'd he go? He got spooked off by me asking about Savard. He said, I can't do this. I got to get out of here.
No.
He's
Sorry,
back.
it's close to the door.
What do you think of Savard? Do you think that Denny Savard is up? Because to me, if you're doing some of these other guys from the different eras, Savard is arguably more justified in my mind than some.
Oh yeah, Sava Fair deserves to be up there. I mean, it's just a list that goes on and on now. It's like, but I think what the Hawks ultimately are going to be forced to do, it's kind of like what the Dallas Cowboys do. Like they can't, like the Cowboys aren't retiring any more numbers, and I think maybe you're gonna have to like seek permission. Like if this player is special, they'll seek permission. Like, hey, can I wear this number? And like we've seen since Michael Irvin. I know it's way different sports here, but like Michael Irvin wore 88. We've seen 2 Dallas Cowboys wide receivers wear 88 since then with Des Bryant and CD Lamb over there. I think maybe you have to start seeking permission with some of these players if they go that route. We're
already in a tough spot given the fact that Seth Jones is wearing number 4.
Yeah.
Which I'm not cool with. That said, they only gave him 4 because he signed an 8-year deal. And it's okay, you're gonna be here. Okay. But I still hate it.
Yeah, so that's kind of also what, like, you can't retire the 4 while Seth Jones, like
you can. You just gotta switch.
Yeah, I don't know how that's gonna work. I completely went over my head.
I just remembered it right now because I'm thinking like, are you telling me that like, okay, we let in Sharp, we let in Seabrook, and we tell Jalmerson, the backbone, the warrior, hey, sorry, no more room at the inn. Don't know what to tell you. Like, absolutely not. Seth Jones would have to get a new number.
44.
Maybe it's the exception, like Mariano Rivera wore 42 before they retired it for Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, if Seth Jones leaves or gets his number changed, he can't get 4 back. But
Seth Jones Rivera.
Yeah. No, I know.
No, but
apples and
you
oranges
raise a
there.
very, it's not Riley Stillman with number 4. It's our new number 1 defenseman. Like, no disrespect to Stillman, but
just tell Seth Jones, you play well enough, you could be a double number up there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's your incentive. We'll wait. We'll tap tape on.
Random question: are there other teams that have done that, or is it just the Hawks that have two people with the same number in the rafters?
We can't be the only team that's done that.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
I
know.
don't know.
I'd have to do some digging.
I'll research that for next week.
Okay.
Somebody also argued Doug Wilson could be a retirable number,
Yeah, Wilson.
which I don't disagree with. Is the thing. Where do you draw the line? And retiring Hossa opened the floodgates.
We could talk about this for a while.
Oh yeah. I think
Yeah.
we've covered. I don't know. I've said all I.
Tire
say without-
91 in Detroit. That's all I'm going to say.
We can move on to the last piece of Hawks news. Well, I mean, the last two pieces of Hawks news technically, because they're kind of tied together. So just like the Wings, the Blackhawks are out of the playoffs this year, and they made moves at the deadline that showed it that they're not trying to make the playoffs this year. They traded a couple of guys away as well, and they had some rough goes of it this season as well. The start to the season, I think it was probably the worst. What were you guys, like 1-12 to start the season or something?
We're bad enough to get Colton fired.
I mean, first off, looking at your guys' trade deadline moves and the fact that, you've had a little bit of time to look at the pieces that you got back. And also just looking at the season on the whole, what was your guys' opinion on what you got out of the trade deadline now? And also, what do you guys think was, like, again, that straw that broke the back for you guys this season?
I mean, Nick, I feel like I love a lot of the trades that we made. I feel like you were really high on Radish. Am I wrong?
No, very high, very high.
I think that's because that's one of the ones that like sort of put me on the. You've talked about Radish before. You've tweeted about Radish before, and so I love Brandon Hagel. We all loved Brandon Hagel, but getting 2 firsts and Radish and Kachuk and seeing Radish, he's cooled down a little bit, but like seeing his comfortability slotting into the lineup and like embracing more minutes. Man, it's hard to say that. Like, it's hard to be mad about that trade.
No, I like I said, I've been high on Radish since probably 2019. I think I started he caught my radar. Like, this is a guy I could see with the Hawks. Like, since we got Stroman to break it, it's like might as well bring the third one in. And I'm happy. It's kind of like years in the making. I think Radish is a straight up player. I think he had a higher ceiling than we originally seen Hagel when he first kind of flourished in the league. I think Radish is a top 6 guy. He's cooled off, but so is the Hawks since he's
exactly. It's hard to say.
Yeah, everybody's cooled off. I'm high on Radish. He has a high motor. He has a high skill set. He has a great shot. He had 5 points in his first 5 games. I don't think he's been pointless in his last 6. But again, it's been
everybody.
It's the Hawks in general. Like, they couldn't develop anything. Yeah. So, and then Kachuk too. I think I don't mind his game. He scored his first goal. He was very pumped. Love to see that.
That was sick. Loved it.
Yeah. So I think he's a player too. I kind of want him to maybe in a higher role to see what kind of could happen and develop with that. Like, we're done. It's 10 games left. Let's have fun with it. Let's see what these guys have. Kachuk, I think, it is a player. He is a piece for the future. Even as if it's like a 2-way kind of player.
Yeah.
I think he has a potential to be like a 15 to maybe 20 max goal scorer, but he's a good player. And then, Radish, I think he's ultimately like he could be a 50 to 60 point guy.
That's what I'm hoping Doc is right now. So like, that's great. I like Kachuk's game. I could see him. I like him in a bottom 6 role, just with sort of the style of play that he has. I could see him on a third line, adding sort of what Sundqvist sort of brings.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I could see that being a reasonable hope for him. Someone that can chip in offensively, but brings that grit, that sandpaper, that plays a 2-way game. We need that. We need that balance, which I think we were missing a lot of this year. Our guys that did bring those didn't have the offensive upside to chip in And I think finding that in Kachuk is an upgrade over some of the other guys that we've been playing this year in his stead. So yeah, I love it. I love Radish. Like you said, he's been somebody that I have to pay attention to every game. I'm seeing him. I'm noticing him on the ice for all the right reasons, the same way that I noticed Hagel every time he was on the ice. I like his hands. I feel like that's something that stands out to me with Radish that I didn't expect to. I love the motor, love the way that he gets off. But his hands, he's making really good plays. And that's really exciting to see. That's where I think he'll fit in that top 6. Maybe where Kubalik left, there's a spot now.
Yeah, I think so. All in all, I think that trade, like looking back in hindsight, I still view as a win. And that's without even the two potential.
We got 2 firsts.
Whatever those amount to be. So yeah, Radish, I'm happy with that. Kachuk, I think we'll see more from him. I mean, I know Lafferty. I know we already talked about Lafferty. He's very similar to Hagel his first year. Kind of just one of those guys that can't finish, but he's doing everything else right.
And he's starting to finish those chances.
Yeah. So I think he could be another Hagel, another high motor guy. And then so I mean, all in all, and then Minnesota's on a nice little run too. So
again,
that second could turn to a first. I think Lafferty, Radish, and Kachuk, they're going to be a part of next year. Obviously the last 2, but I think Lafferty's going to be a part going
He
forward
wants to
year.
come back, and the Hawks want him back. Like, I don't think he'll take too much money. I think he'll be back next year.
Yeah. So this is a good opportunity for Kachuk and Radish to continue to show like, hey, we just need a better role. Like we were stuck on a 4th line on a great team. And you can't move up in Tampa. So this is their time to get up and run. Before I go into what the straw that broke the camel back, there's a lot of them. Yeah. I think, where was I going to close out with that? Shit. Oh, well, one, we missed Marc-Andre Fleury, but I think all in all, like you look at this, it's just like, there's stuff to work with. Maybe Kubalik you bring back on another year.
I don't know. I honestly don't think he's going to be back. Because I think he's too expensive on his qualifying deal. I don't know. Like, that's the tough part. He's being played in a 4th line role right now. I think if he was going to be back next year, they would put him in these last couple games in a position to truly succeed. Screw it. Put him on the first, put him on the second line, see if he can get something going. I think that they see more value in some of the guys that they've brought in trades and are bringing up from Rockford. I think Kubalik's time is done.
Kubalik's getting the Zadina treatment. That's basically what's going on with him. Like, he's not being put in positions that work for him. And when his scoring dried up, he just got demoted.
That said, Zadina was doing a lot of things right. And the frustration is when he's moved down,
it's not deservedly moved down.
Yeah. Kubalik has been put in, and Nick, please jump in, correct me if maybe I'm missing something and it's a distinct possibility. Kubalik's been put in positions to succeed this year. I think he was given a lot of different chances to succeed based on his previous experience. And I think a lot of goalies figured him out, and we did not see him adapt. And he wasn't doing a lot of the things that you need to know. Like when DeBrincat dried up his scoring last year or the year before, he became like a weirdly good 2-way guy. We didn't see that as much with Kubalik. And now we're at a point where we want to put in guys that are going to be here and we want to give them a chance. And Kubalik is the guy that's on the outside. I don't know, Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, no, Kubalik's a one-trick pony for sure. He just has a booming shot, and that's about it. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's really it. I mean, there's nothing you could really build off that. Like, you're not going to be a great NHL player if you just could shoot a puck. Like, you could be solved by that.
Yeah, that's exactly. And there's been no creativity to his. I loved listening to goalies talk about Panarin, because they'd be like, I would watch his stick. He was getting ready to fire off, and at that last second, all of a sudden the puck's, I don't know where it's going. Kubalik was a one-trick pony. I think he's done with
and
us.
So yeah. Oh, I finally, that conversation kind of finally brought back what I was gonna say.
Sick.
I think this is the point. Like, this is the point where you get creative. Like, you have time. Like, as like going forward with next year and maybe what in our system now. Find that project. Work on that project. Like, we have the time. We have the resources to do so. Like, if you want to take on go try to get a prospect that kind of just hasn't figured it out, like your Alex Nylanders. We just did that at the wrong time. I agree. I think that ruined Nylander. That we were still trying to win now. I think if you want to go find a guy like a Nylander or whatever, a similar situation where like he hasn't figured it out, this is the time to do it. As for Derek King, enough of the fans shitting on him. I'm fine with him next year. Like, there's no point of trying to switch it up with all these young guys, and like the next year means nothing. So I think you kind of stick with that. I think the fans are just meatballs for shitting on him because his team's awful. He's just calling it how it is. Like, we're a bad hockey team that's not going to compete.
It's exactly what we talked about earlier, where we're a team where we're just not good enough right now. It doesn't matter who's coaching. We're not going to be certainty. We're just not there. If we let up a little bit, and he even said like, hey, you know what? On a good team, if a goalie has a hiccup or lets in a soft one, the team rallies and bounces. Hey, let's get that back for him because he made a huge save for us. We're not there. If we're not perfect, we can't come back a lot of the time. And I think King has done a great job of at least keeping people engaged and keeping that room from being too dark. I'm all for him coming back next year because that's where we're at as a team.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So get creative. Ultimately, straw that broke the camel back on the season.
What was it, man?
I think defense, Colleton, offense kind of shoring up early in the season. All of the above. Marc-Andre Fleury wasn't sharp to start the year either.
Coach got found out,
A big time controversy burning over your head as well.
Right. Like there was a looming abyss over the entire team that they there was a lot of things that were wrong. This is a bad year.
Letter D, all of the above. Like, everything went wrong at the worst possible time.
I mean, I guess if I had to give one honest answer, it's underperforming. On paper, this team at the start of the year, we were hyped, right? We were playoffs. We all had it in the playoffs. Every single coach, offense, defense, even the goalie before Marc-Andre Fleury got hot, underperforming. And now that, like, I don't know, nobody rose to the people tried. I don't know. And like, Kane is a wizard still. Like, Kane is an absolute genius. DeBrinket's wonderful, but like, we need Hossa. We need Sharp. We need Seabrook. We need Hjalmarsson. Right now, we don't have all those pieces that get you to the playoffs and go the distance. We're just not there.
So, all in all, season a disaster for the Chicago Blackhawks. Let's hope we don't fall in that number 2 overall pick, because that would suck. Shane Ryder bust.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with that. Sean Ryder. Shane Ryder bust.
Sean White's the snowboarder.
Sean White or bust. Yeah,
Sean White or
he's
bust.
done with snowboarding. Get him into hockey.
There you go.
I would watch that in a second.
Did I say Sean?
No, he did.
I said Shane. Sean. I think I heard you say Sean. Don't mind me. My brain's dumb. It's been a long day.
Yeah, my connection's awful, so I'm like catching pieces.
So with both our teams out,
yeah,
the playoffs are starting at the end of the month. I think Jordan brought up, it'd be fun to kind of like pick a team to follow. So, Jordan, you want to talk about that a little?
All right. So the Wings and the Hawks are both out of the playoffs. It sucks because It sucks, but it doesn't suck. It sucks because I want to watch playoff hockey, but it doesn't suck because now I don't have a horse in the race and I can objectively watch games.
Yep.
Call me crazy. I know that it goes against everything that I've said for the past 3 years, but you know what?
What?
I'm
you
rooting
dare
for the
to.
Edmonton Oilers this year in the
Get out of
playoffs.
here.
They're gonna
I
beat
watched them
Boston.
play against Colorado a couple nights ago, and you know what? When they needed to dig in, they actually dug in, and they deserved to beat Colorado.
That must have been the
Leon
one game they dug in.
Draisaitl has been just as good as Connor McDavid has been.
That's true.
Just as good. Jesse Puljujärvi has been having really good stats. Surprisingly, like the underlying numbers for him have been really good. They just got Ryan Nugent-Hopkins back, which he's been out for a decent chunk of the season. I'm still not sold on their goaltending, but I think if their defense plays good enough, they might be able to make it happen.
And if they can win games 6-5, I don't care what anyone says. That's exciting hockey. And you've still got Yamamoto there. Like, with as many question marks as there are, Evander Kane is still a legitimate offensive threat. Their offense could make up for every other liability that they have.
Like, in my opinion, their offense is a slightly worse Toronto Maple Leafs, but their defense is better than the Leafs.
I'm torn on that.
Tim, I know who you picked, but let's hear it.
What?
Tim, I know who you're gonna pick, but let's hear it.
It's no secret. My East Coast team is the New York Rangers. I love the Rangers. Loved them since I was a kid. And I still follow, again, big original six. Shesterkin is an absolute monster at goal. I thought we were done after Lundqvist. Lundqvist was getting old, and it's like, okay, we've had enough solid goalies. Shesterkin is a legitimate contender for like the Hart in my mind with the way that he has carried this team at times. Their top six has been phenomenal. I mean, Mika Zibanejad has sort of found his game again. I was a little worried at the start of the season. Panarin, of course, is a dream. Lafreniere and Capo Caco are fine. They're kids. And I think that now that Chris Kreider is having a ridiculous record-setting season for himself,
He's a beast.
Lafreniere and Caco can be kids. Ryan's like, they've got a wonderful top six. Their defense is better than it's been in years with Adam Fox as their main guy. I don't know. That is a team that I think on the right night can contend with anybody. I see no reason, because they're a team that if the offense dries up a little bit, their defense and their goaltending can still save them. That is what a good team is. So yeah, I'm going Rangers.
Nick?
Give me the lighting. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, all for Brandon Hagel. No, the Florida Panthers. I mean, they are such a awesome. They had their own issues, obviously, with Quinville down there. I know it's another Florida team, but like they're so goddamn entertaining. Like
I love it.
Their back end's awesome. I know Ekblad is out. Then you got Bob, who's kind of had a resurgence in net. And then even if all falters there, you got Spencer Knight, Jonathan Huberdeau, Sasha Barkov, Claude Giroux. It'd be cool to see him kind of go there and win one. So I think everything's kind of aligning. They're the most entertaining team in hockey. Like just the other night, they beat the Maple Leafs. They were down 5-1 and came back to win 7-6 in overtime.
Love to see it.
I mean, it's just kind of hard not to root for them. They kind of remind me of the Hawks when we were starting our prime, and I think this is kind of the coming out party. And God, I'm hoping for a Panthers Lightning playoff series so bad, and
so good.
that would be some of the best hockey we'll ever see. So yeah, give me the Panthers. The Rangers used to be my Eastern Conference team, but I kind of jumped ship, and Florida. I was high on them a while ago, way too early, like in 2016. Now it's their time.
I love it.
Okay. Cool.
David, who you got?
So I did some thinking, and
Oh man,
it's always bad when I start thinking.
this is dangerous.
It is dangerous
to the
because
Caps.
it's a team. No, The Craps. No, it's a team I don't expect to win it, but I would be happy. I'm gonna pick my boy Jake's team, the Minnesota Wild.
Okay.
I
All right.
I'd be happy too.
I mean, yeah, we get a first.
you know, yeah. I mean, it's not one of the favorites, but they have a pretty decent team with guys like Kaprizov and Zuccarello, leading the way. And they shored up their goaltending with, Flower. So I've been to a few hockey games live in my life, and I've been able to go to their arena to watch them get thrashed by the Red Wings a couple years ago. So that was fun. But I think they're a good team. I think they could shock people because, you get in, anything can happen. We've said that before. I mean, freaking Los Angeles Kings won the cup as an 8 seed.
Yeah.
Their logo is also pretty tight. Their jersey colors are pretty baller.
I mean, don't sleep on their defense either. Spurgeon and Dumba have been great.
Oh, for sure.
Like Spurgeon's been incredible this year, honestly.
Yep, Spurgeon's been great. I mean, his points, he's at 36, but his defense is where it's
Still
exactly.
like a half a point per game.
For a defenseman, rad. Awesome.
So I'm going to go wild card. Go Minnesota Wild.
The Minnesota Wild Card.
I like it.
Yeah, you can't go wrong until you come out to Prince. That's pretty awesome as well.
I love it.
I feel like that's really all we have to talk about. I mean, we could touch on it really quick, but I kind of already slammed him at the top of the episode. With the Buffalo Sabres killing Owen Power's career before it started.
Buffalo sucks.
Yeah.
They've kind of been on a heater lately.
Yeah, they have been, but every
Hopefully
team
just
can go
enough
on a
to
heater.
get themselves out of the lottery or like out of the top 3.
Matt Beniers signs his entry-level contract with the Kraken. That's a kid who's coming off that Michigan team, which was really good. I feel like this last draft, like it was super top heavy.
Yeah, they all went to Michigan too.
I mean, yeah.
Like 5 of them were Michigan players.
But no, that's pretty much the show, unless you guys have anything else to add. It's been a little bit of a longer one.
I have one quick question, and there's no way this is going to be a quick question, but we'll see. What do y'all think of the Jay Beagle fight beating up what is it, Terry on the Anaheim Ducks? And this whole argument of like being embarrassed by skilled players.
Yeah, you want to skill it up? Stop it. It's not the 1980s anymore. You got skilled players doing awesome things.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, fucking stop it.
That
piece of shit.
That's if you're embarrassed by somebody doing the Michigan goal on you or scoring a really cool goal and being excited about it, as long as they're not like glove washing you afterwards, being like, did you see what I did? You're a scrub. Like, if they're only embarrassing you by being good, be better, yeah. I guess. I don't know. The idea of I'm going to beat the crap out of this exciting kid because he did a cool thing. That'll show him to entertain in this entertainment sport. It's the most buck wild. I love fighting in this league. I love physical hockey. There is no place for this utter nonsense. That's not the code.
Like, hockey's a sport. Sports are supposed to be entertainment. The kid entertained the crowd and the people watching that game.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry your feelings are hurt that he embarrassed you. It's not like he walked up to him after the goal and did like the John Cena, you can't see me.
Wayne Gretzky embarrassed people every single night. Like, it's so ridiculous to me to try and tell this new crop of like, and then to say, well, if you're going to play this type of hockey, you should know it's like,
you play for Arizona. Shut up.
Yeah, exactly. You're just mad because you're playing in a team that doesn't have a rink realistically. Like, get out of here. I don't know. That's the stuff that I just have no, and I know that Jay Beagle's not typically that kind of person, like historically throughout his career we've seen.
Arizona changes a man.
Yeah, Arizona makes you different. That said, I don't know. It's just that's the stuff that I don't like. And that's what people point to with like, that's the kind of thing we need to get out of hockey. It's like, yes, that is different than a lot of the fighting that we see in the league. Like there's a time and a place for it. And this was uncalled for.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. That's been something on my mind. We haven't had a podcast in 2 weeks, and I don't know. That just really bothered me.
I get it.
And it comes directly from Tortorella being live on, asking, is this good for the sport? Like, it's that mindset that he's not unique to that. And there are still players in the game that think it's okay to like, hey, wait a minute, I grind and like, am happy to get a point out of every couple of games. You should play hard-nosed hockey like that. Get out of here.
You want to know what we say to them?
Yeah.
Have fun at ASU next year, you losers.
Sucks to suck.
Yeah, exactly.
Jabroni.
No, that's all I had. I don't know. I just wanted to get you guys' take on that. And I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah.
But that's going to be our show for tonight, everybody. If you're still watching and listening, we appreciate you tuning into the show. At the end of the day, it's a podcast. It's by fans for fans. There's no corporate sponsorship or anything like that. So it's just us getting together, having fun, talking about the stuff that we like to talk about. If you liked what you heard or you watched, feel free to give us, the social media of currency on the platform you found us on. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. You can even email us if you really want to, stickbladepodcast@gmail.com. I'm still trying to figure out how to get us on Spotify. I'm slowly getting all of this podcast stuff figured out, getting it distributed.
Getting that contract.
Maybe one day.
One day we'll be on QVC. We'll have our own little home shopping network channel,
Yeah.
But seriously, if you tuned in and you liked what you heard, feel free to give us some of that currency because it helps us grow. And also feel free to get in contact with us. Every once in a great while, somebody will give us like a discussion topic or a question or something like that. And it's fun to engage with you guys and just sort of get something like that going. And again, for your host, Jordan Scott, for my co-hosts, Tim Stompano, David Barnhouse, and Nick LePage, this has been another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. We will catch you guys all back here next time. You guys take care. Stay safe.